Tests. Good. I'm just going to make sure that I'm live here first. All right, let's go live on here as well. Making sure that is up. Goes down. Very nice. Okay. Okay, guys. Hello. Welcome to the weekend. I must apologize. I'm a little behind on what my schedule was today. So I have a bit of my Oracle self in play because we're going to do a bit of an Oracle card reading using one of my Oracle decks. I got a little message from the universe just kind of saying to put into practice not necessarily what I preach, but just more like having more magic in your life, in the sense of, consulting with yourself and what that kind of looks like. So I'm just going to just double check today's current planets. If you're watching this as a screen share, I think, I don't know if I updated that link, but I just want to check where the current planets are. I do have my little frame to share with you guys as well. So we do have the sun in Scorpio. The moon was a full moon last night, a full moon in Taurus. The moon is still quite full. It's not maximum fullness anymore, but it's now in Gemini. So I'm personally a Gemini moon baby. So if you guys know what your moon sign is, I would love for you to share that in the chat, because your moon sign represents your subconscious, your inner world, all of that kind of good stuff. So right now in the stars and the cosmos today, I've taken to being like a version of Oracle. So if you're not familiar with the character of Oracle from comic books, she is who Batgirl becomes, or rather Barbara Gordon becomes, after she loses the use of her legs through the awful events of the Killing Joke. And so she becomes, she reinvents herself as Oracle, so she finds her own way of continuing to do her soul mission in spite of obstacles that are presented, right? And so I love these stories because they give us ourselves in our personal little journeys of life some inspiration, some, other stories to draw from in terms of like psychic and inner power of yourself. So thing about Batgirl, who I was doing a lot of editing, and if you guys know me, so hello, welcome to the live stream. Happy weekend, everybody. So typically on this live stream, I do astro in the day, and then I do comic book readings in the evening. And then I did this comic book reading, it's very, very late, Thursday evening. We were reading, oh my goodness. Oh yes, the Spider-Verse, because I was doing Black Cat. And so we were looking at that, and then I was giving a preview into what I'm reading a little bit later, which is Promethea. And Promethea is kind of like a spicy comic book. It's written by Alan Moore, and in it has a lot of intel in terms of how, like, paths. So if we're talking about reality, and let's say like consensus reality, we oftentimes use symbols and meanings and archetypes and these ways by which to convey what our inner world is, right? And so sometimes things can get a little lost in translation, and you yourself also have a way of interpreting all of these signs and symbols as well, right? There's inherent meaning to things if we think about it, right? So in university I took English literature and psychology, and a big part of my thesis, what I worked on, was this idea of like defense of the romance novel. And as I read you guys comic books, I like looking at all of that at a deeper level as well, right? So these stories that you personally have resonance with, they're going to give you a little key to yourself, to unlocking yourself. So what we're going to do today is, as Oracle, I'm going to do an Oracle card reading for you guys. I did one of these readings for myself earlier today, and I got something that was called the Brotherhood and Sisterhood of Light. So that's kind of fun. I was like, oh, okay. So I hear you. I'm going to do something that's kind of like a little reading for all of us. So, oh, thank you. Thank you, Gebrew. And thank you guys for joining me on this. I've been it's been, I don't know if you guys have been feeling it lately too. Like, it's just like, I guess it's been a full moon. The full moon brings with it this like extra. If you were born under a full moon as well, you're going to find yourself particularly emotionally activated as well. So, and I'm feeling activated because, as I told you guys, I'm a Gemini moon. So the moon is in Gemini. Actually, as we go through the cards, I'm going to tell you guys resonance with things, right? So Isis, she's a wonderful goddess. I think she's like the ultimate wifey goddess. She's what she goes through to get her hubby and put him back together again, and like it's I love it. I'm gonna retell her story. I'm going actually to revisit some of the older videos that I've already done in terms of storytelling, some of the Greek and Roman myths, because I love those very much, and I feel like comic books themselves, they also derive a lot of inspiration from those main myths. Isis herself is actually a comic book character in Marvel, I believe. She's in the Black Adam universe, where I think you transform by saying, I am Isis and I am Osiris, or something like that. So we're going to go into an oracle card reading for everybody, considering the chart of the everlasting now. So think of it as the collective unconscious. And if we think about unconscious stuff, you're thinking about the moon. And so whether or not you believe the moon is what everyone says it is, doesn't quite matter. Everyone can look up and see the same moon, and whether it's full or crescent or new. And so we also have the intel that moons affect the tides, and if us as human beings are mostly water, we can also like assume that there is likewise this how should I put it, this energy that has resonance in us in some sort of way. And it's our joy to be able to like work through all that and like, figure it out for ourselves kind of situation. I'm just gonna see if I can play some synth-wavy music. I'm feeling the 80s today for some of that. So I'm trying to also get the live stream schedule set for when we're doing what I call like my radio shows, when we're like playing some music and my hubby does DJing. Just so you guys know kind of like what we were struggling with this. So before I do the oracle card reading, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Bruce Lee. How is that related? And genres and classifications of things. So Oracle, Barbara Gordon, the last full moon sets on the emotion that made such an emotionally strange vibes until this one. Totally G-brew for you. Yeah. I mean, like, so let's circle back before I get into the card reading of the now. This is all related, right? I'll just make sure that my tangents don't mean that we don't get anywhere. So think about lunar cycles, right? So do you guys know, like your Chinese New Year, right? So in the East, I'm half Asian, so I guess part of me also, like, you think like Eastern and Western concepts and Eastern and Western Vedic astrology. So all of these are related to each other. They are all different lenses to look at the same truth with a capital T, right? So moons have their own cycles, right? So women, of course, we're ever so blessed to also have cycles with the moon. It's also why typically I think men should do things like spiritual vision quests on a monthly basis, because they don't have the luxury of bleeding every month. and going through that syncing with the moon. The moon is feminine in nature. That being said, all of us have a feminine and masculine energy in ourselves that dance with each other. And like for example, magicians, the idea of being a magician is inherently masculine because of like the wand and stuff, right? So Satana, when I cosplay Satana, she is, even though she's female, she's still exhibiting a masculine trait by being a magician, as opposed to being a witch or a sorceress, which is more of like a feminine energy of magic. So it's just like talking about like nuance with that, how you can have intuition, but then more of a mental state. And you know, like you can think logically about a situation, right? And you can have probability and possibility. And when you like make a decision, let's say like, okay, like Brainiac in comic books, I love that in on Infinite Earths, he chose his side based on like the probability of success, which like is a logical way of doing things, right? And if you watch any like sci-fi movies, the issue with robots and AI is that it's almost like too logical, right? What was that movie, like I Robot, with Will Smith, where the child in the car, the robot makes a decision about probability of saving the child or the adult or the parent, and the adult, he chooses the parent, so because of like probability of success, as opposed to like what more human way of feeling into how you're making certain decisions. And so when it comes to like different signs, different people, and the moon itself and cycles of time, you yourself are going to have your own emotional way of interfacing with the cosmos as well. It's why it's kind of nice sometimes to look at your own chart and interface it with what's going on in the greater collective chart and be like, oh, okay, like I was looking at my own chart compared to, like, for me, this full moon was intense because I'm a Taurus, right? So full moon in Taurus, the moon was right on my sun. So my sun and my moon were making love, and it was very intense because I was having other things going on, like oppositions between major planets in my chart. And so when you think about the planets and you think about the pantheon of gods, I like to think of it in a higher realm context. And so if you think of these as aspects of self, sometimes you and yourself, you come at a crossroads, and part of you wants to do things one way because perhaps you were always taught to do it that way, or you were maybe you were taught to do it that way, or it's something that you've always done, and so you feel comfortable. I'm speaking as a fixed sign person. So the path well trodden. Hey Papa Bear, hello, thanks for joining. I'm doing an oracle card reading for all of us using a very special oracle deck of mine. So let's talk about oracles for a second, like the definition of oracle. So I come from an English literature and psychology background, so I like to like have etymology when it comes to things, because oracles, I think, are very much related to the sun, right? So oracles definition. Okay. They say Apollo at Delphi. That's a big popular one. I want to pick oracle definition. I want more like an etymology. Yes, sweet. There we go. Got it. All right. So, oracle, noun, a message from God expressed by divine inspiration through a priest or priestess in answer to human inquiry, usually representing some future event. From Old French, oracle, temple, house of prayer, oracle, and directly from Latin, oracularum, divine announcement, oracle, place where oracles are given, to pray to, plead to, beseech. Well, I like that word. I should use beseech more often. With material instrumental suffix kulo. In antiquity, the agency or medium of God is what oracle means. Also, the place where such divine utterances were given. This last sense is attested in English from early 15th century. Extended sense of uncommonly wise person is from the 1590s. So, It's interesting how oracle and orator are related. So, an eloquent or skilled speaker, one who pleads or argues for a cause. That etymology is very close to oracle. So, this a concept of being a medium or agent of God, right? Or the divine. And so that's interesting. I also love how if I relate this to comic books and oracle, let's see here. This moon brought energy. It had me needing to use my energy, walking and needing to socialize. Aha. Ooh, Jeeper, what do you know what your moon sign is? By perchance? I do feel that there's a something also happened in the stars, you guys, was that Saturn started to stage is now stationing direct. So what does that mean? You know, when planets are moving in the sky, right, we're looking at things from a state of perspective, right? So, yeah, just you can use any astrology calculator and check your moon sign, my friends. Even if you don't know your exact birth time, it'll usually give you like a frame of reference. The moon moves every 2 hours, so she changes. That's why it's like, are you moody? Because you're changing your mood constantly, that kind of thing. Hey, Casey. Oh, hello, Athena. Nice to see you here. You're one of my favorite goddesses. Kev Art, I've been busy with my art and I'm writing a novel for the first time. Wow. Are you going to can you share what your novel is? Actually, you guys, before I get into the oracle card reading for all of us, I'm actually going to do an oracle card reading for each of the elements as well, because I'm going to oh, this is so good. Okay, this is wonderful. I want okay, let's hold on. I'm going to organize my thoughts so I can get to everything first. So, the reason for this live stream, you guys, is that I'm an astrologer, right? So, I came to astrology in 2020. Prior to this, I was working in the corporate world, right? I worked at I guess I can say it now. I worked at KPMG. I worked for a big consulting firm, right? And I was the global relationship manager. So I thought, what did that mean? It meant that I was the digital relationship manager for 137 countries across the world. So I got to do these monthly Apple calls and talk about digital implementation and all that kind of stuff. So tech is my jam. My dad was a professor in computer science. I have a floppy disk that my book that I wrote in 1999 was backed up on. So the internet, GeoCities, MySpace, ICQ, MSN, N64, that was like my life and childhood and like a lot of what contributed to who I am today. So when I found astrology in 2020, it was like a whole new world had just opened up in front of my eyes. I cannot explain to you guys why astrology works, only that it does. And my specific lens in coming to it is neurolinguistic astrology, which is that neurolinguistic programming is NLP, which is, I first read a book which was called The Structure of Magic, which talks about just like how the order of words, the way you say words, these are all ways in which we're conveying an inner world. And so I spent a lot of my life assuming everyone had the same internal glossary as me. And that's not true, because we inform our internal glossary of terms by what? Art. All art. Movies, music, this that you're watching right now, any form of art that you are experiencing in your life is a way of informing your inner world. I'll give you an example. Let's say you and all your friends go and watch a movie, which I used to love doing with me and my friends. So the first Fast and the Furious movie, I still have really fond memories of that, because back in the day, I used to be an import model, you know, like those girls who stand next to the cars and look pretty. So cars, like all my friends, we were like into cars and like custom cars and modding cars. And so I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, right? So we did the thing like Sunday night cruise nights. And so watching Fast and the Furious, right? The first one, not the latest one, which really doesn't have anything to do with cars anymore, but I digress. Paul Walker, rest in peace. Love you, Paul Walker. So watching that full first movie, let's say any movie, and you're all there, and there's like certain terms. I'll use like what Vin Diesel, like it's family, right? So if you don't watch the movie with your friends, you're not going to have the context of what that movie is, and so the inside jokes won't make sense to other people who haven't watched the movie. Same thing goes with things like Star Wars, right? Like the Force, these archetypes that are used in even comic books. So all of these different things, because we know the same piece of art, even though we're going to personally interpret it in our own way, we are then able to have this higher level conversation with others who have also experienced that same art form, right? So I do encourage any of you who have been thinking about writing a book. Kevar, I love that you are writing a novel, because I think it's all about us really striving to communicate what our inner world looks like, because I like Hollywood, if you've noticed recently, is kind of it's obsessed with this concept of multiverses, right? But they don't really do it very elegantly. It's not really, it never serves the plot. It's more just kind of like to have this cameo appearance of like, hey, remember when Jennifer Garner looked amazing as Elektra? Or hey, remember when Nick Cage was Superman? Or so, oh my goodness, that's a love to you, Kever. I appreciate that. I feel like that's it. That's the Ouroboros, you guys, right? That's the infinity. When you create art and you put it out there, someone catches it, you catch it, and it inspires you to build your own world, right? And this is where copyright gets a little like cagey, right? So let's say I create a character. I think this is like the whole idea with Deadpool too. I don't know if like the character of Deadpool, let's say, was created by someone at DC, and then you go to Marvel, and then you like bring that character with you. Like, who owns the character, right? Or who owns these worlds? We create these worlds as creator beings, and we set them free. And if people are able to have respect for those worlds and those characters, they can be built upon in such a way that you create a whole mythos around them. And myths are essentially sacred stories, right? Sacred stories to us, our personal mythos, are how we achieve meaning in anything that we do, right? It's how we are able to keep a North Star in the darkness, right? Where when things get tough, you realize, like, oh, wait, this is just a trial on the way to me achieving what I'm here to do in this lifetime. So, oh, I love that. Yeah, just going for it, right? And I think that is such a beautiful act of courage, right? And it's like when I left the corporate world, and as I said, when I found astrology, I I was like, whoa, what is this, right? And so for me, my I don't look at astrology as like trying to foretell the future, right? Even with oracles, they say here, like, yes, it's part of, let's say, foretelling an event, but the way I look at it is this: it's like, think of a song. So, my hubby's a DJ, right? And so, music has its own language, right? So, the notes and the chords, and even having the intro, and then the verse, and then the chorus, and then the bridge, and then the chorus, and all that kind of stuff, right? So songs have a structure. You can break that structure too, though, right? Like just like story structure, or heroes' journeys or myths. You have like this structure, but you can play with it a bit. Like that's why I love Tarantino, right? Non-linear storyline stuff. Or what was that recent one that I watched that was non-linear? Some Strange Darlings. Strange Darlings. Like if you watched it in order, it would kind of ruin the plot of the movie, but because it's done in this non-linear way. Yeah, Casey, yes. Yes, I think it's wonderful that we can share a little about ourselves to bring inspiration to others. 100%. And I do feel like in my own chart, I have a very so Saturn. Oh, let's go back to Saturn, because that'll be a great way to go into the card reading, because that's kind of what's changed. In addition to the full moon in Taurus energies now in Gemini, I feel like everyone's creative forces are empowered. Additionally, we have Saturn going direct. Now, I was, as an astrologer, I have other astrologer friends, and we like to compare notes when it comes to our interpretation of what's going on in the sky. My lens of astrology is that it provides you another language, it provides you another way of communicating about concepts that are ineffable, right? So when you're talking about things like unlocking yourself, alignment, love, true friendship, I'm going to talk a little bit about synastry after we do the card reading. And if you're on, um, I'll have a replay with this with a bit of a screen share for you guys to see the charts, because I'm going to do a little synastry reading between Batgirl and Supergirl as Oracle, because I have a few comic books that I'm doing some replays of that feature kind of like a Batgirl and Supergirl team up, and I don't think you really have ever seen that live action at all. And I think it's just healthy female friendship goals, right? Because I've recently reconnected with a lot of my girlfriends who I originally wrote my first book about when I was 14. And I'm a Taurus, so I'm kind of like a lifer friend. Like, if you're my friend, we're friends forever, this lifetime and every lifetime. Right? So, and everyone needs a friend who's got their back, right? Oh, oh, cute. So I encourage all of you guys who to be that friend who, when everything seems dark, you can call them to pick you up from a sticky situation. Or like April O'Neil, right? When the turtles were trapped in Batman's world and they needed to get back, April figured out a way to like jump in and get them, right? You need, like, every hero needs some backup. So I realized one of my soul missions in this lifetime is to be backup. I am the best backup, right? Even when we play video games, I don't like playing video games with myself. I like playing with somebody else. I like being player two for whatever reason. And I also like to be like the sniper person, or like the elf archer from far away, or like doing spells from far away. I don't like, but my sister, my hubby, they're like berserker, go in fighting with like big guns, but totally cool for by me, but I have your back, right? So if someone's trying to get you from behind, don't worry, I got you. And I'm going to share this story that me and my hubby were talking, because, you know, like I say at the end of all of my live streams, that the universe is counting on you. And, you know, like, it's true, because you are here to be you. And if you look at your chart, your astrology chart, meaning the map of the stars in the sky that were like that snapshot when you took your first breath into this existence, that placement is yours and yours alone, and infinitely uniquely yours. So uh, your character, what you are playing here in the stage of life, is your oh, I don't play Fortnite. I'm too old for Fortnite. Troy Boss. That's obscure, but yes. Publisher at West, give me some advice. Oh, nice. Kev Art, I've had to deal with some I don't know what you want to call it, like scam publishers lately, because I have a whole young adult novel and I've been trying to decide on how I want to publish it, because I have other things associated with it, right? 1 second. I gotta get my pup. He's knocking things down. Wolfie, where did your comb go? At least your little sock's still on. Here. Oh my goodness. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, da-da-na-na-na-na. Okay, friends, I am back. Oh my goodness. Being a dog mom is tough work sometimes, you know? I also have like a very special needs dog, I feel like, as well. I said creeper, but in the game. Obscure, let's see here. I always wanted to be Spider-Man. I could always relate to him. I love, you know, I was reading the Spider-Verse's Black Cat, right? And I feel like there's something there with Spider-Man as well, like the relatability. And I will tell you guys, Spider-Man, like how you have interfaced with the character, I think matters. Like, so for example, Kevart, do you have a favorite Spider-Man? Like, is Tobey Maguire your Spider-Man? Or like to me, Spider-Man will always be that animation from the early 2000s on YTV, Spider-Man. And like in kind of like real life. Where is the Ben Riley suit? Jake Hart, are you going to answer that question? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to be honest, you guys, I am not as familiar with Spider-Verse and Spider-Man lore. I am in the process of learning more about the Marvel multiverse. I've done a lot of work with DC because I've had the comic book of Multiversity and a lot about Crisis on Infinite Earths. And tomorrow, we're going to do some Supergirl and Kara Zor-El analysis of all those kinds of things tomorrow. And then, as I said, I'm going to do Promethea as a restricted 18 plus live, because last time, you guys, at 3:33 a.m. my live got restricted for reading from Alan Moore's Promethea. Some of you guys were here for it. It was kind of crazy. I was like, wow, that's nuts. Okay, so going back to how oracles and telling the future, right? The future, how, like, tell me your future. So like my mom, for example, when I first came to astrology, she's like, Rachel, tell me my future. I'm like, that's not how astrology works, Mom. Isn't that Spider Girl? There are a few Spider Girls. I can show you guys, actually, not to go off on a tangent, because you know what? I kind of look like Mary Jane today, too, and I love MJ. Oh, I love all the Spider-Man's chickies. They're all, like, wonderful. So I was reading some of the Spider-Man noir before I jumped on the live stream, and I might read some to you guys, too, because it's kind of like, I'll show you some of the panels because they're gorgeous. See? Or I told you, like, the Indiana Jones. And so, like, see how, like, and I love this because it's the Spider-Verse, right? So, you, in each universe, but I don't know how it's mapped in Marvel, right? Like, is there a manual to the multiverse in Marvel? So we'll see. I'll save that for Monday, like Marvel Monday with Jean and Phoenix and Psylocke and friends, and we'll look at that. But tomorrow will be more DC. We'll kind of like close the loop on Crisis on Infinite Earths, because I was born in 1985, and Crisis on Infinite Earths came out in 1985. So I encourage all of you guys as well to look at works of art that came into form the same year that you came into form as well, right? Because there's some clues there about you. Like, for example, any movies that were like won an Oscar the year that you were born, or any movies that were released, or any songs that were released. There's playlists on YouTube. I love listening to like songs that were released in 1985, the year I was born, because I was like, man, or 1984, because those are probably songs I was conceived to, right? Like in your mama's womb, just like listening to beats. So, because vibrations and frequencies, right? And going back to songs and how songs can help you tell the future, right? So the structure of songs, as we were saying, like in movies too, you have story structure, right? You have an introduction, you have the first act, second act, third act, conclusion, and then typically you have like a climax that you're coming up to, and then hopefully a payoff and way of things wrapping up. Now this, you can always break this this story structure, but I think overall it's just a way of organizing, right? A way of classifying. And I love, there's a song called Overthinker, and in it has spoken word of Alan Watts, and he says that we shouldn't confuse signs with the real thing, right? So when we're telling time, like daylight savings, when it hit, I didn't realize how much it would screw me up, but it totally did. And Jay Carr, thank you for the ice cream cone. Thanks for the gift. Thank you. But where was I going with this? Yes. So when you're telling time, right, you're looking at the clock. You're like, oh, like for me, it's 7:34 p.m. Eastern, right? So like, what does that really mean? I had a girlfriend of mine. We've reconnected. She's Jamaican, right? So I grew up in Winnipeg, and I drove like a Ford Aerostar van, which was like you know those old van, I could drive the ish out of that van, you guys. So I would pick up all my friends and we would go to dance practice and or anything, right? You like pick up all your friends and go wherever. I was, I was born in 1987 and Platoon won Best Picture. Wow, Dino. You're also a Pluto and Scorpio baby though, right? So I totally feel like anyone born between 1984 and 1993 or so, it's like a flock of birds in terms of soul mission. There's a certain formation. There's something that we know about in terms of like a spiritual war that we're supposed to play a big part in. I'm in 66. Kavar, like the 60s babies, there's a special thing there. My good friend Joanne, who's been on this show, she's 65. And the 60s came out with a ton of art. Like the 60s with the, like, you know, I've done some LSD trips where I felt like I was from the 60s. Like a part of my soul, me and hubby's soul is like from the 60s. Let's see here. I'm actually in Ontario next door. Nice. Well, I'm in Ontario right now. I'm in Toronto right now. I moved to Toronto from Winnipeg in about 2008. And then I met my husband here. Before that, though, I had a stint in New York about like in 2007 because my good friend who has the same name as me, Rachel. So this is how like kids make friends, right? First day of kindergarten. She's like, what's your name? I'm like, Rachel. And so I'm like, what's your name? She's like, Rachel. It's like, well, clearly we need to be best friends. And so we were and still are. And so she is Jamaican, right? And so me and my van, I remember always like calling her mom. I would call her like, I'm going to go pick Rachel up to go to the movies. Her mom was like, oh, she's in the shower. Okay, can you let her know that I'll be there to pick her up. So like I would pick up everybody else first, and then regardless, I would come to her place and she'll be like, I haven't gone into the shower yet. I'm like, your mom said you're going to the shower. But I learned this about her. I learned that like it's island time, right? And going back to like Alan Watts, he says that you shouldn't confuse signs with the real thing, right? The hands of a clock tell time, they are not time. And same thing goes with the stars, right? So regardless of you think of whatever you think of the moon, if it's cheese or if it's a satellite or if it's what they say it is, we can all observe it. We have a perception of it. We have stories, we have myths about the moon, like Artemis. I love Sailor Moon. So we have all of this other meaning encoded in the moon, right? So regardless of that, there is intrinsic meaning to it for you, right? And so we shouldn't confuse with like this, just the symbol of it, like even what I'm wearing right now. Like this is not the moon. It's just representing, right? And same thing goes for us as avatars here on the earth. We are representing an identity. We are informing the universe through our life story and what we're choosing to do here with our precious time that we have here, right? And so time itself is but another dimension that we can play in. And so we should not entrap ourselves in time and also not entrap ourselves in the classifications of things just because it's something that we're trying to organize with, right? So my hubby and I have this conversation all the time when we're trying to go live where he's like, I don't know what genre to do. And same thing goes when I went to dance class, right? You'd have like hip hop dance, heels dance, samba dance, jazz dance, jazz funk, right? And so it's just like, well, what about this? What if the song wants you to dance to different, wants you to move in a way that is not classified by a genre of dance? And I need to find the video where Bruce Lee talks about how styles, like if you think like martial arts styles, they separate man, right? Because you think about style, it's just like a classification, but then we shouldn't let that, just like the structure of stories or the structure of songs, things can be remixed or redone, but like yes, it's about freedom and expression. Yes, whatever that means for you, right? But there is a balance of, with Saturn, the lesson of Saturn is discipline, right? And so it's our relationship to boundaries and discipline in ourselves, right? Because to have a creative dream come to fruition, right? It's all in your head. But then how do I get this whole story that's in my head in a form that you will be able to receive it in the way that I would love for you to receive it, right? So Homer, before he wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, he beseeches the muses and says that please, please, please let me tell this story in the way in which that it needs to be told, because you realize as an artist, you are but a conduit, that connection between heaven and earth, to bring down stories that will help the rest of your fellow human beings awaken to the truth of who you really are, right? And we do that all through fable, through all these fantastical tales that are not true, but hold truth. And that is the duality. I love Dr. Manhattan and how he talks for this kind of stuff, because it's like, how can you hold these both? How can you be here and there at the same time, right? And this whole idea of like quantum entanglement, or the idea of like being aware of being observed, right? So you're basically, you know what though, Demo? I feel like this is why we play a game with ourselves. We play hide and go, like my hubby loves to call it, like the game of hide and go seek with your true self, right? So if you've ever had any kind of near-death experience, breakthrough experience, dark night of the soul, where you question everything in reality and what's going on here and all that kind of stuff, you realize that you are everything, right? That you are the whole universe, right? You're an infinite being playing a finite role for a time, right? But you can't hold that for very long, right? That awareness for very long. I look at it like if I'm writing a script for a play, right? And then I'm also acting in the play. When I'm acting as a role in the play, I have to pretend for that moment that I didn't write the script and I don't know what's going to happen next. But I did write the script, right? So you can pop out of that, but in the moment of you being in the moment and acting and performing that and being that role, you're not aware of what's going to happen next. So in terms of like telling the future, the thing is, we are kind of like in a multiple choose your own adventure kind of story, which just got a lot more flexibility and freedom in it than we would like to think, right? Because the game is too easy if there's not enough challenge in it, right? It's like playing a video game and you've started on easy and it just becomes too easy. And then like, what's the fun in that? You need a little bit of challenge, and counter that to when things are difficult, but in a way like the design's not very good and it's just like too many guys and you don't have enough health and it's like the guns are all crap, so it's just like no. So it's not fun anymore, right? Because it's too hard for no reason. And I get it, sometimes this game of life feels hard, but here's the fun thing about this game: you are also the game master in this game, my friends, right? So all the little cheat codes, those are yours that you left for you. And so when things seem like they are a little bit way too difficult on purpose, maybe take a breath and a step back and be like, am I maybe overthinking this and looking at this in a different direction? Or sometimes when I play Halo, right, you have to do this. So going back to gaming, I'm from 85, right? So I play older games. I played like N64 GoldenEye back in the day, and like Mario Kart. We used to have Mario Party games where all my friends would come over and we'd play Mario Party or me and my sisters played Mario Tennis with the actual like rackets and stuff. It was great. I love Princess Peach. She's the bomb.com. Yes. Let's see here. Have a wonderful weekend, Kevin. Thank you, thank you. Being that has no anxiety helps for sure. Or people not thinking enough. Focused video games. You know what? I feel like I tell my girlfriends this. So I consider myself a gamer girl. I don't like the tagline of it. Like, me and my sister use games. Like, she lives in Vancouver and I live here, so gaming is a way to like connect. For me, gaming has always been social, as opposed to being this thing where you're like cutting off the world. It was a way of seeing each other in that archetypal way, because gaming is the only way to interface with a story where you are interacting with it. Like, you don't get to know the next part of the story unless you beat a certain part of the level, right? So for me, like remember Mass Effect? Has anyone played Mass Effect? So Mass Effect's a nice game because it's got like a nice story to it as well, and you can play the game in multiple ways. My hubby kind of looks like Commander Shepard, or rather, Commander Shepard looks like my hubby. But in that, right, like I used to watch him play it, and I would get so mad because he wasn't big on the story, so he would just like blow through things, and in that like last mission, some of the people ended up dying. Where I'm like, you could have saved them, but why didn't you? But it's just, but in the 90s, that's how you made friends. Yeah, it is how you made friends. Everyone came over. Like, Halo has a big spot in my heart for me just because of the nostalgia and the friendships and, you know, hanging out in basements. And I feel like that's a Pluto and Scorpio thing too, right? Scorpio's ruler is Pluto, and Pluto is all about the underworld, right? What is underneath everything. And we are currently in, let me just double check. We are still in Scorpio, you guys. We are about to leave Scorpio to go into Sagittarius. And so this is a very interesting part in the chart as a collective, right? This whole part of us reinventing our identity, or rather our relationship with the identities that we have chosen to play. Like when I was growing up, in the 90s, I had the internet at a very young age because my dad was a prof in computer science, so I had computers around me. But like, it's so crazy because I saw the old internet, which was like, you know, message boards essentially, right? Like bodybuilding.com, or like just these different forums and message boards. And for each of them, you could create just a different username. There was no picture, and you ended up actually having like these friendships online with people just based on like message board stuff, because of people like asking questions and like giving advice and like connecting that way. And it was just like, that was what the internet was. And you had like Napster and like LimeWire, and my dad had really fast internet at his office, so me and my sister would always go over and like download a bunch of like free shareware games and stuff, and like put them on these floppy disks and bring them home for ourselves. But yeah, so it's just like what tech has become now in terms of your persona and your avatar. Like everything needs like two-factor authentication, right? There's this triangulation of like your identity online and in real life. And so gaming, think gives you this this perspective, this meta way of looking at life, in a way of like, oh, okay, like I'm this infinite being and I'm now playing me, right? And I am having these experiences as a way to inform the higher cosmos and the universe about what it is to be here, right? So as we think about all of this as a whole, I'm going to do a little card reading, because as it looks right now, Saturn is direct and Saturn's still in Pisces. So the message about that for me is along the lines of, you know, the discipline and the work that is required in order in order to make your dreams come true, right? Because hey, Cicely Da Vinci. Ooh, nice name, Da Vinci. Did you know that Leonardo da Vinci is supposed to be Satana's great-great-great-great-grandfather? Also, Leonardo is one of the Ninja Turtles, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you. Hey, Voice of One, welcome. So you're just in time. Things do try to break you guys, but you know what? When you go through challenges, I say this to myself about certain things that I've gone through. Like no one else would be able to handle it. You know, like no one else is you. And I tell my sister used to tell me this too, because I'm a big sister. I have it literally tattooed on me, big sister, because I knew my little sister was going to be born. Yay! I've been all over the place with someone. Time has been crazy. My schedule is, as I continue to try to like enforce it with myself, 12 noon and midnight, because I love that area between the alpha and omega, between the spaces, the liminal space, the subconscious space, the undefinable space. That space is the space that is fun to dance in, right? And in that space, it can be a little bit scary, right? Where it's like, oh, wait, who am I? Who are you? What is this? Where are we going? And that's where astrology helps, because it's a way of looking up to the cosmos to figure out, where am I, right? Oh, oh, thanks, you know. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, as I told you before, like I was in corporate for like 10 years, right? And at that time, I did almost like this is very Gemini moon or anyone with Gemini placements. You're able to almost like fracture off a part of yourself and be like, okay, that's that person over here. I don't know, like that. What was that show? Was that Apple show where like Severance, where like if you go to work, it's like a different person than you when you're like at the dream world you. It's just like you. Anyways, and it's like a clone or something like that, but you're sharing. It's kind of similar to the Gemini myth if you think about it. Uh, yes, yes. Thanks, Voice of One. That's a great way to put it. Hee hee hee. But going back to even like what my hubby was saying, like it's hard to pick genres of music. And speaking of foretelling time and going to the oracle read for everybody, because you know music and because you know stories, you can anticipate the next beat. It will not always be the same, right? So, for example, I don't know, this is just me, but in songs, I'm a Taurus, so I love music. I love music very deeply. All styles of music, all types of music. I love music. But I typically love song like the second verse. I don't know why. The second verse of songs um always has like lyrics in it, which I always find like, wow, I really like that. I don't know. It's just funny. And so even when I used to sing with my friends, which we used to do, right? And that's the beauty of music holding truth as well, right? Mozart um, once said something along the lines of how you can have all these different notes, all these different instruments, all these different voices, but because it is harmonic, they can all be happening at the same time and sound beautiful, right? So something to keep in mind, like, and that's the difference between harmony and noise. Just because you have frequency and vibration, does it needs to be directed, and that's where structure and the lessons of things like Saturn and things that maybe seem boring, which I like, they do seem boring sometimes. They come into play, right? But when I used to be in on dance team in university, where like the same song, repeat it every time, every time, every time. And if you've ever filmed a music video with dance, right? You think it's easy, but if you want the whole group, and like let's say you mess up a part and everyone else got it, you got to redo it because you need the take where we all get it, right? And let's say you get it and then someone else didn't get it, you're like, oh my gosh, I finally freaking got it. So that all just takes practice, and over time when you work with people, you that I think is what I feel like I want to cultivate more with my friendships and my relationships, is this idea of, building, um, practicing together, rehearsing together, all that kind of stuff. That's a way of bonding, right? In a way that's not like trauma. Like when I used to work at the corporate and being a project manager, I feel like we bonded with each other because like you had to make that deadline and you made magic happen to do it, right? Hello, hello. Oh, have I ever auditioned? I have auditioned for things, yes, and I have been in things, you guys. But as I said, when I'm being in corporate, I kind of like fractured off my creative self. And even the way I spoke, the way I wrote was like corporate jargon vibe. And it was crazy. After leaving the corporate world, I had to like decondition and deprogram myself from it. Hey, Saitama. Thama. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Sai. Hey, Chris. It's the power of collaboration, 100%. And you're a Virgo, Chris, right? Or no, Sagittarius. Sagittarius. Uh, Sagittarius birthday is coming up, but that cusp between Scorpio and Sagittarius, which we're approaching right now, super spicy, super spicy, super magical. A lot of deep, empathetic, intuitive power to be having. Oh yes, yes, Virgo placements. So, Virgo is an Earth sign, Taurus is an Earth sign, and Capricorn is an Earth sign, and Saturn rules Capricorn. So Saturn is also related to things like earth and ground and foundation. So whatever your dream is, what like however fantastical your dream is, right? To be the prima ballerina on the stage also requires the stage to be built for you to be on it, right? You require all of these facets in order to have the star. So it's something to consider that in certain lifetimes what we're meant to play, in certain configurations what we're meant to play, which is why, like, in my first book, I didn't even make myself the leader. I made my best friend the leader, right? Because there's something to be said about when you are finally called to be the leader, to play the captain, to be the one who makes that call, that you have the right people by your side who can help inform you, right? Because even when I was project managing in digital, right, I have a very technical background, so, but I don't know how to code. I can't code. It's not something I do on a regular basis, and it's one of those things, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. You have to put into practice what you learn in order for you to stay sharp at it, right? So I worked with a lot of very smart developers, my sister included, right? And so it's just this concept of when you're building code, having a level of critique to it, right? Which is why you send your code for a +1. And as a project manager, I need to test it with myself, with my own senses, for me to give it its stamp of approval for it to move forward, right? And so you have to also then take the responsibility for if you don't take the time to QA it appropriately, right? And so the Saturn lesson is, and I've learned these lessons, right, where I just trust it and I just send it through, and it gets caught for something, my QA will come back and be like, Rachel, I can't pass this because, like, so, but these are all just lessons for yourself in honing and practice and all, as I said, the boring stuff. But if you get those, so it's a habit, it no longer becomes a chore, and it becomes just something that's part of you. And so you can get to the really juicy stuff. I forget the quote where it says that to be so disciplined that you are free, right? That you are free from your own vices, from your own ways of you getting in your own way, right? Oh, thank you. I'm a bit OCD. You know what? I think all the best people are a bit OCD. I yeah. I used to, like, when I used to take tests, like when you, like, do math tests, and, right, you're doing algebra, let's say, and you're, like, correcting formulas. My biggest issue was that I would always constantly, like, check my own work, like, double check that I, like, did it right, not just trust the fact that, like, no, I did it right the first time, like, double check it maybe once. I need to check it like 8 times, right? Yes, self-discipline and humor, 100%. Like, to know where you need to be, where you need to improve, but also take credit where credit is due, right? When you practice a bunch of times, nothing is more satisfying, you guys, where, like, you and your friends, let's say, practice, like, well, I'm speaking from experience here, but, like, let's say you and your friends practice anything, or you're rehearsing anything, practicing something, and then you get it. You finally get it, like, it works. You're like, oh my gosh, and then you, like, watch, like, we did it, yeah. It's so much more satisfying to have earned that win, right? As opposed to just being like, well, it's okay if it all kind of looks messed up. We can, like, fix it in the edit room. No one need to know. We can just cut around it. Like, it's good enough, right? It's fine, right? So it is that balance between honing. Oh no, money. This is my redhead wig. So, fun fact, right? Batgirl's wig is actually bulletproof. So, oh yeah, oh thank you. They're all my. Hey, I'm a Gemini moon, you guys. So, uh, my multi personalities and multi facets. But here's the thing: they all talk to each other. That's the biggest thing for you to know about yourself, right? And also just to be aware that at the heart and soul of all of it, my core character is the same in this, right? Batgirl doesn't have any powers, right? But she does become Oracle after the events of the Killing Joke. And it's interesting, right? Barbara Gordon is paralyzed not because she's Batgirl, but because she's Barbara Gordon, because she's the commissioner's, like, daughter, right? And Joker's seeking a way to hurt Batman whatever way he can. So, hi, Orion Reviews. Hello. So the cards are my Isis Oracle. So this Oracle, I have a little shop in Toronto called Shanti Baba on Queen Street. I refer to them, like in RPG games, like in, like, Legend of Zelda, where, like, Link goes into the store to get, like, potions and his wares before he goes on his quest. I call Shanti Baba my place to get, like, my candles, my incense, and, like, my cards and stuff. And so when I was there, this deck was sitting there waiting for me. And so when I was a big nerd growing up. I went to the library a lot, and I had this big book of goddesses that I would always take out on a regular basis, and had goddesses from A to Z, from all parts of the globe and all cultures. And I fell in love with the story of Isis and what she had gone through for her love Osiris, after everything being so unfair, and still like having the perseverance to like find Osiris, put him back together, bring him back to life, have a son. Like, she just was like that energy of like wife energy. I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I I vibe with that so much. And so when I saw this oracle deck, I was like, okay, Isis, I hear you. And so I've been working with the deck on and off a bit. And so earlier today, I pulled a card that said Divine Brotherhood and Sisterhood of the Light. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do an oracle card reading for all of you guys and anyone who chooses to receive whatever this message is. So let's go for it. I kind of did a whole like preamble in the beginning. Um, oh yes, Spider-Man film with my buddy. Oh yes, to the comics eventually. My favorite oh my, wow, do you know that's my favorite non-fiction book? Oh, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I've been reading a comic book that's essentially like a biography of Louis Riel, which is pretty good. I'll show you a little cover of it if you guys have ever seen it. It's not nonfiction, but it's based on like true events, right? Um, that's been pretty trippy because, as I said, I'm from Winnipeg, and I was born, put into form in the same place Louis Riel was. But nonfiction, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. You know what? I guess I don't really read a lot of nonfiction, you guys. My friend Joanne said there was a really good book called On Right. Oh, of course, I know what book. The Birth and Death of Meaning. Read that. The Birth and Death of Meaning. It's about how you derive meanings from like words and archetypes and symbols and myth. Barbara becomes Oracle. Jean Grey finds a school alternate reality, same person. You know what? Kind of. And you know what? I was tripping out reading more about Barbara because she was a librarian first, right? And then they made her like a computer software engineer, and she has like a photographic memory, which I kind of do too. Like I was top of my class, you guys. Like, humble brag. So valedictorian, all that. I went to like an all-girls Catholic school, top of my class, all that kind of stuff. Super nerdy, right? But I also did things like go on the dance team, be in drama, all that kind of stuff as well, because I don't know, there was just something in me that said to me that one day all of this knowledge, you're going to need it one day. All of these stories, you're going to need it one day. And even if we think about comic books, there are so many comic books out there, so many universes, so many renditions and editions. And so the ones that resonate with you, I think it's very important for you to come together with other people who love those same stories and compare notes, because I feel like there's no way we can read every comic book, you guys, or every story or every myth out there. And so we also have stories that come to us in our dreams about these characters. So our own personal spin and lens on things as we converse about them bring another life to these stories, which then I think unlock ourselves on other levels of like reality. Uh, Dr. Manhattan tried to stop Ozymandias until he realized Ozzy was right. You know what? Here's the thing about Ozzy, right? Ozzy loves to play on the fact, like, he just lies. In Doomsday Clock, the comic book I read where it's the crossover between the DC universe and the DC universe and the Watchmen universe, there's actually a prophecy in that comic book about 2025, you guys. So that's coming. My 40th birthday is 2025. I wonder if they're talking about me. But they're basically saying in 2025, Superman will return. Now, let's think about this in an archetypal way and what Superman really represents. And if we even look at that S on his chest, you can really see that it kind of represents an Ouroboros, right? This concept of the alignment of all of your energy centers. The fact that the radiation of our yellow sun that empowers his his powers is a tell, I think, in us as well. Oh my gosh, love that. Original Marvel Girl was is you know what? Voice of One. It's so funny you say original Marvel Girl because I'm actually working on a cosplay original Marvel Girl with the gold mask because I've learned to have a little bit of appreciation for that version of Jean Grey. It's just funny, like when you read stories like that, you start to become more like enamored with certain things, right? And sometimes, as I said, you guys, just like in movie 2 of like Lord of the Rings, and you're like in Helm's Deep and everything seems like it's dark, Gandalf is just around the corner with the white horse and some backup. You just need to hold the line. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to pull a card for all of us. Wow. I got a little chilling for this. So the card I pulled for today's oracle read is Healing the Divine Masculine. Osiris rises. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. Don't worry, Isis, I'm on it. As I said, like, women love men. I don't understand this whole like new age feminism stuff. Okay, I'm going to read you the message from the oracle. Okay. Healing the Divine Masculine, 71. All right. Osiris rises. The divine masculine within men and women is the energy that allows for protection, discernment, healing, and a sense of deep safety and holding, even through the most uncomfortable circumstances of life. When the masculine within us is healthy and strong, we have an inner strength to hold ourselves safe through anything. Your inner masculine is going through healing right now, growing stronger in his ability to offer you inner protection and stability so that your inner feminine can blossom with creative expression. Ooh, I love that. Speaking of which, oh my gosh, love it. Okay. The inner masculine and inner feminine need each other. When they are in good inner relationship with us, we feel like healthy, whole human beings. We are able to live as ourselves in the world in a relatively peaceful, creative, and enjoyable way. When there is damage to the inner masculine, there is difficulty in standing up for our truths, in knowing what our truths and values are, and in knowing how to protect them without feeling as though we have to fight constantly just to be allowed to be ourselves. We might also feel that unless others see things as we do, we have no power, and then have to fight to dominate others, manipulating them to our point of view. The inner masculine part of us often needs healing so that he can fulfill his divine purpose of inner strength, protection, and honoring of the self in all of its uniqueness, so that we can live as free, strong individuals that know who they are and are happy to just love and be that person and allow others to do the same. This will happen at any time he is asked to hold even more consciousness, to hold permission and strength to be even more of the unique self. This masculine and feminine within us need to be in balance with each other. There is no point in having a powerful feminine with unique values and strong creative force without an equally strong masculine energy that is able to act upon those unique values no matter what others may think, to take action to allow the creative force of the inner feminine to flow into form in the physical world. When your inner feminine is growing and desires to express her uniqueness in the world more boldly than ever before, the inner masculine needs to grow in self-belief, self-worth, and self-confidence so that he may take action to allow the blossoming feminine to truly be in the world whilst feeling secure and safe. This oracle indicates your feminine self is blooming and your masculine needs to be able to protect and honor her. And sometimes, just as Isis looked for Osiris to help him put him back together when he was torn apart by hatred, fear, and jealousy of his dark brother Set, our feminine needs to help the masculine to heal so that he, in turn, can help her. Your masculine consciousness can be healed and grow stronger through his relationship to the inner masculine or inner feminine within me. Oh my goodness. Oh yes. Rachel Summers also wears, yes. So I'm going to do a little Rachel Summers too as well. So this is kind of trippy. It's like about healing your inner masculine self. And in a sense of when you're trying to be yourself and be your creative force and what we consider as more feminine aspects of self, you need to also have the ability to set boundaries to protect your creative force, right? So even this idea of like being taken advantage of by publishing companies or things like, so I was basically reading you guys a little oracle from my Isis oracle. So the card we pulled today, you guys, for the collective, for all of us, is healing the divine masculine. And so all of us looking towards, the heroes, the ones who like I was telling my hubby, like, just because I like am super strong and I can like punch things and fight things, I am all for like blessing the divine instruments and like shooting from afar. But the point is, it's all about, oh, new dancers, I love that. Yes. So she has a wonderful story. I think I'm going to retell it at some point in time in the future. I'm going to read, let's see here. It's a bit of a long, here. There's a ritual that she gives you here. Let's see here. This oracle guides you to realize that your inner masculine would benefit from some restoration and healing after being ravaged by expectations that in order to be acceptable, he should never feel anything. That he should always be dominant and that only the most violent and aggressive alpha masculine behaviors are to be respected. If you are already working on this aspect of your own healing, you are encouraged by this oracle that it is working and to stay in your process. You are encouraged to empower your masculine energy, seeing it as protective, containing, strong, and highly aware. You are also encouraged to continually choose to let go of behaviors that cast the masculine as a perpetrator or dominating. Yes, I agree with this. So like, you guys, like it's a wonderful thing when you have well-aspected masculine energy, right? There's nothing more beautiful than that. And all the little practice times, like I used to say to healthy male bonding, right? And this gets into the synastry of friendship that is really the main topic of this talk, right? This concept of like you as your own universe, your own chart, right? You are going to, when you have relationships with others, you create chemistry, you create an energetic connection with between you and that other individual, right? And not just individuals, with movies, with places, with entities, right? With everything. So that synastry, right, is that connection between the two aspects and the aspects that are created between the two, to you, both of you as a whole, right? Let's see. I'm gonna put in a synastry reading between Batgirl and Supergirl, just to give you guys a little bit of a look into that. So, chart of the everlasting now. And then you won't be able to see it on, let's see here. I'm looking up everlasting now, but that doesn't actually exist as a web page. Only chart of the moment does. So thank you for joining me for that oracle card reading about healing the divine masculine. I do feel like that goes along well with the fact that Saturn is now direct, because all of those lessons about boundaries and practice and discipline and all of that boundary, more masculine aspect of what it takes to bring out a more undefinable subconscious feminine force, right? We can think of that as the sun and the moon, right? And so with a full moon, right, you have the sun basically opposing the moon, right? It was much more direct yesterday on Friday, Venus Friday, but on you want to think about how, like, we as the earth, we are between this cosmic dance between the moon, which is your subconscious, your inner child, your inner mother, and the sun, which is our primary, like, our will, our battery of life, our solar plexus, our some astrologers contribute it to like main personality, but it is more of like this shield in front, right? So this concept of like, if we're going to like open a portal, let's say all the ladies are going to get together, do some dance moves, open a portal, there's bad guys around, kind of need you guys to keep the bad guys at bay while we do this kind of stuff, because I can't keep track of all those things while I'm trying to do this. So, you know, like, cover me. That situation, right? So, or in 300, right? King Leonidas, he turns down that Spartan guy who's like deformed, because the reason being that he can't lift his shield high enough to cover the man beside him. So it's not anything like, it's a very practical reason, but of course he gets all like ragey and angry and he goes to that weird guy who, like, anyways. But the point of that is like, in your formation, right, and in dance, when you learn the choreography, it's one thing. It's another thing to learn how to dance in formation on a stage, right? Because you need to keep your peripherals about you, because one step for one dancer, for example, who's me, 5'2", and my girlfriend Beth, who's, let's say, 5'8", that's not the same step, right? So she, because she's taller, needs to have awareness of me, and I'm going to try to strive to go longer so we can meet somewhere in the middle. But that all needs to be practiced, right? The formations, right? And who's in what position changes the way the dance looks, especially if you're doing certain vibes, like or canons, right? Yes, which people would pay attention to, and like your whole peripheral of surroundings, right? So bringing this back to video games, which actually, me and hubby, I think I'm gonna play Halo again. I'm gonna try to have it go to TikTok too through the studio. We'll see how that goes. Put on my Batgirl hat when it comes to that. Oh, going back to Batgirl and Jean Grey and me tripping out about my dad, right? So Jean Grey's dad was a professor, right? Did you know that he was actually Professor X's professor at Baird College? So Jean's dad was a professor to Professor X. So I'm just like, I wonder if, so any of my dad's students out there who have taken computer science with him, and you're Professor X, holla. Let me know. I see most as reckless action. It is kind of frustrating. You know, I'm in a big city. I'm in Toronto, right? And there's a lot of craziness happening right now. There's a lot of frequencies and vibrations, a lot of like fear porn news, a lot of all this stuff in the air, and like people are losing it on many levels. Like, there's too many planes by which it's very difficult to have a happy, healthy, aware, lucid body, right? There are things you can do though, right? And that's something that things like doing spiritual cleansing can help with, right? Having personal rituals to yourself. connecting to your divine essence, because there are a lot of things at hand right now that want to prevent all that, even as we are all going through, or the earth herself, the heartbeat of the earth, all of that kind of raising up in us as her children, also like raising up in vibration too. Uh, yeah, what seems like chaos at like this scale has an order to it at a higher scale, right? So like it seems all crazy here, or like if you're like a note in a symphony, you can't see the whole thing playing out when you're in this part of it. Uh, who is onslaught a mixture of? I'm not sure. Actually, I'll look it up while I'm here. And that's a great way for me to like curve back into what I wanted to actually talk about, so that, and I can actually end this and get on with the rest of it, because I actually read you guys my cards, and then I have a bunch of editing work to do later so that I can release some comic book reads for you guys in the library of things. The Cosmic Comic Book Library, that's what I'm going to call it. And, you know, like, put on my Batgirl pants and, like, you know, catalog everything, categorize everything. And, you know, all that stuff is so boring, but, like, all the stuff is necessary. Onslaught is Magneto and Xavier. How is it both? Okay. This is a way of me also learning a bit more about Marvel together, you guys. Earth 616. So you guys, is Earth 616 like home Earth, like the major Earth? It's funny how it adds up to 13. Okay, Onslaught is a powerful psionic entity born from the inner hatred, resentment, and oh my gosh. Malignment? I can't say that word right now. Apologies. For both sides of the mutant struggle, when the minds of Professor X and Magneto momentarily merged. What does that even look like? Oh, I guess, okay. Professor X's breaking point came when Magneto ripped the adamantium from Wolverine's skeleton. Holy cow. In a final act of desperation, holy cow, Wolverine. I can like feel what that would feel like. That, holy moly, okay. Xavier used his telepathic abilities to render Magneto catatonic, inadvertently absorbing Magneto's intense emotions and negative feelings. That gives some insight into how Professor X's powers work as well. He created the Age of Apocalypse. 616 is the main Earth. Okay. They're going that direction in X-Men 97. Okay, they fused together. Hey, Mr. Wink, thank you for the gift, by the way. Oh, wow. So, in X-Men 97, did Onslaught appear at all? I haven't watched X-Men 97, guys, yet. Don't kill me. It happened in X-Men... Oh, true. Okay, I'm gonna find this. This looks crazy. Because when I was talking to my friend Aria about when she was Scarlet Witch, I totally forgot that, like, Scarlet Witch was Magneto's daughter, right? And we also have to think of these stories as also providing intel on an archetypal sense, right? So I was reading a meme once where it was like, oh, Scarlet Witch's power can create whole realities, constructs, bring them down, all that stuff. What can Quicksilver do? Run really fast. But if we think of Quicksilver's equivalent in the DC universe, which would basically be Flash, and running really fast as hitting a point of breaking reality and time-space, there's, I think, a there, which I don't think necessarily is uncovered in Marvel, but I think it's still there. Thanks, Mr. Wink. Hard to tell how they're doing stuff. Flash is faster than Quicksilver. Oh, yes, that's true. That would be something to look at, though. The fastest man alive. There's also a fun scene I remember that I want to recreate with Flash and Supergirl, where, like, Flash gives Supergirl a boost. Like, you know, he runs really fast, like, throws her, and she's able to, like, fly then super far. You know, some extra backup. Always necessary on superhero teams. Okay, so this fusion birthed Onslaught, a separate entity within Xavier's psyche. What a crazy thing. I love you comic books for this kind of ish. What a way to kind of understand things on that higher dimension level, right? So, initially dormant, Onslaught's emergence was catalyzed by Xavier's mounting frustration with societal hostility towards mutants and personal tragedies, which is technically usually the case, right? Especially with, I think, psychic powers that come from more of an empathetic place. So more of a so Jean Grey, I vibe with her so much because of her powers coming from empathy and just an ability to feel things and feel when someone's in trouble. To like for example with my sister, I really can feel, and friends of mine, like I can feel if you need me. Um, okay then. Chris Hemsworth, who is Thor, is playing He-Man. Check out the preview. Oh wow. I'm gonna rewatch it. You know what? It's always everything is always worth a rewatch, guys. Whenever you rewatch things, I swear, if you watched it a million times, you watch it that one more time, you're gonna catch whatever message is meant for you to catch at the time you watch it. I love it. Okay, and thank you guys for bringing me Onslaught to my attention. I knew about Onslaught. Actually, I think I've read a comic book. So, fun fact about me in terms of comic books, my first comic books that I actually read were Marvel comic books. So actually, the read I was supposed to do today, but I'm behind on my scheduling, is X-Men versus Avengers, right? Now, it's always like funny, like mutants always go up against everybody, and I love the mutants, specifically their stories, because of how much their powers are related to their genetic code. It's also why they love cloning so much, right? Because that's like your DNA, your gene keys. Something you guys may want to look into as well is something called the gene keys. You can go online and like look up gene keys. It's based on your birth date in astrology, and I've found that there's a lot of nice insight from that as well. I'm not a gene key practitioner by any means. I have a friend of mine, I want to get her as a guest on the show to talk about it a little bit more, but it's the concept of like, your time of birth, as well as like a few other things, as well as like the mapping of your body provide you specific keys. So mutants and the X-Men provide, like, think of like X genes, XY genes, right? The common thing is that X gene. So there's like these different symbolic ways of like looking at what does this mean, right? What does this mean for me in my life in like the here and now, right? What does it mean to activate powers? And in X-Men, your powers are very much related to your genetic code. And additionally, they do this thing of like, what I've realized with X-Men is like the concept of like secondary mutations, right? So Emma Frost, for example, her diamond shield is a secondary mutation. It's not an initial, like it's not the one that she was born with, but your secondary mutation is one that is based on your abilities, like your preset abilities, right? Because like Wolverine wouldn't be able to have that adamantium skeleton if he didn't have the healing factor, right? The ability to take it. And so bringing that back to like you playing the character of life, in the character of life, you are going to have certain codes in yourself that you're going to be able to go through certain experiences that only you can go through in order for you to get the keys that you're needing to get to activate what needs to happen. And it's not just important to you, it's important to your friends. It's important to all of us. It's important to everybody, right? It's important to Cosmos. Second was Force Sun and with Metal Claws. Yeah, exactly. So like Wolfie, he had to go through, but because he went through the pain and torture and all of that, he came through on the other side, reborn as like a new form of Wolverine, right? Just like Phoenix, right? Jean Grey died and came back as the Phoenix resurrected, right? And the concept of resurrection when I read you guys X-Men versus Eternals, the Eternals got all threatened because the X-Men figured out resurrection, right? And so they're like, oh my gosh, we're not the only ones who like live forever and are immortal. What will we do? We're going to be irrelevant. um, Secondary for Wolverine, heightened senses. Really? I didn't know that. It's funny too. I've read you guys the Black Cat Felicia Hardy comic book, and she also has a secondary mutation of providing bad luck by affecting the quantum probability realm. So another thing I love about comic books as this way of being able to speak, provide language to really ineffable, unspeakable about things, right? So like, how else are we supposed to talk about this kind of stuff? Like, we want a PowerPoint presentation and like a chart. I think all part of the same feral and healing thing, but I'll allow it. We should have a little mapping of that, right? So Jean Grey, like, so Batgirl. Let's bring it back to Batgirl, and tomorrow I'm gonna be doing Supergirl. Kara Zor-El will be back, and I'm behind on my scheduling. So what was supposed to happen yesterday was this. Was I was supposed to do this because it was a full moon in Taurus yesterday, and I was supposed to do my oracle card reading yesterday. But the card I pulled essentially for the full moon for me was Divine Brotherhood and Sisterhood. So I'm like, okay, even though I'm late on it, I'm still going to do it. And then after that, what I was going to do was read you guys the rest of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is Alan Moore's take on Superman, which follows the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths and features Supergirl coming back from the 30th century to visit Superman. And they kind of leave her in the dark about the fact that she's dead in this timeline. She's like, where am I? Am I off on a different like mission somewhere? And Superman doesn't have the heart to tell her that she made the ultimate sacrifice for the multiverse, right? But it also speaks to like I did a lot of like looking into Voice of One. You had brought up Saturn Girl and like the future and all that kind of stuff, because in Doomsday Clock, Saturn Girl is in that storyline quite a bit, because Supergirl has like enemies from the future because they know that she's going to destroy them, so they try to come back into the past. It's very Terminator. They come into the past to try to like affect her there so that she doesn't destroy them in the future. But in the future, there's this girl named Saturn Girl, and I like Saturn Girl is such a trip. I was like, oh my gosh, what? And Saturn's direct, so I feel like it's no mistake that I found out about her. But Saturn Girl is mute, and she's in the future, but she only speaks telepathically in your head, but she sounds like your voice. So that's something to consider, right? Like, okay, so how would you know that you're actually talking to her unless you knew this thing about her? And then how would you distinguish between me being like me talking to myself and me talking to Saturn Girl? Or if there's like some psychic around you who's like going, oh my gosh, motherfucker, and then like that's actually like you're receiving that because you're an empath, right? So I feel like all of this stuff, I'm like, okay, that's interesting, right? So like I'm just throwing that out there. I haven't like synthesized it and like figured out what to do with that intel, but there's a there. I will figure it out. I will come back to you guys tomorrow on it when I revisit Alan Moore's Man of Tomorrow. But funny story, at exactly 3:33 a.m. on Thursday night, which I guess is technically then Friday, right? So maybe this already happened on the full moon. I was reading panels of Promethea, book 5, and they gave me a restriction. So I was like, what the heck did I read from Promethea? That was... But maybe it was just real truth. Truth with a capital T, right? And I feel like we are in a timeline right now where like there's a lot of like subjectivity. I think that's the best word I think I'll put for it. There's a lot of subjectivity, and I think on a personal level, hey Hunter Nebula, nice to see you again. Oh, I'm Oracle today. I you know what, I consider this as kind of like base level for all the redhead characters that I love in comic books. So let's list them. Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, Oracle, Jean Grey, Phoenix, Scarlet Witch, Who else is also Mary Jane, right? Rachel Summers. Like I do love redheads. And when I was on dance team and growing up in high school, the first color I dyed my hair was this kind of red. So this is also a throwback to like my teenage, more reckless. So yes, Jean Grey is also a redhead, Hunter Nebula. That's right. So something about redheads. I got a thing for redheads, you know. So and I always tell like you always need a good redhead on the team, and I do have um, a redhead on my team as well on the Dragon Warriors. She's a Cancer. She lives on Vancouver Island. She is super intuitive. She is definitely like there's a vibe with that too, right? So Jean Grey's powers come from being super empathetic, and that's why she's able to and is intrinsically linked to the Phoenix Force. I vibe with that personally just because if you look at your chart, you're going to have actually let me end this with like fun little astro cosmic lesson about the stage of life. Let's put it that way. I'm getting a little warm now, then we'll end it. Um, Hey, Mr. Top Ramen. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Okay. Put this here. All right. The Flash is a redhead. Oh, really? I thought the Flash was a blonde. No? Who else is also a ginger? There's other gingers though too. That they've kind of converted some gingers, I think, over. But who was it? I still love redheads though, right? Just in all forms. I don't know. There's just a thing about it, and like strawberry blonde. Wally West Kid Flash is a redhead. Strawberry blonde is a redhead. True that. I like the word. I like how strawberry blonde sounds. All right. Okay. There's a few others though. I'm thinking Lilu from The Fifth Element, technically a redhead, even though it's orange. I look at orange too, like like the fifth element being love. Um, the sacral chakra is orange, right? And Sailor Venus is orange. So it's funny because when you think about like the lantern mythology, they kind of get the colors a little off, right? Because green is technically the chakra for love, but green can be like different hues of love and different shades of love. And so I guess those have different like frequency and light bands associated with it. So, okay, you guys, let's say the charts and the planets aren't placed where they're supposed to be right now. So just ignore that. I want you guys to look at this as like a stage. So when I was in musical theater, from grade 9 to grade 12, I went to St. Mary's Academy, and for all things, probably my favorite memories of St. Mary's were our drama performances. So our whole school would throw musicals on every year, and we would invite all of the Catholic schools from around the city. They would be sold out performances. So we did Les Miserables, we did The King and I, we did Oklahoma, we did, I watched The Wizard of Oz. I wasn't in The Wizard of Oz, and I watched Peter Pan. So stage shows, musicals, working together to put on a performance is something very dear to my heart. There's nothing like being on stage. There's nothing like the applause that you get. And this is such a different experience than competing in fitness when you're competing with other people. Winnipeg in the house, Hunter Nebula. And so like Winnipeg actually was the place where I did where I did nationals actually. I did nationals in Winnipeg in bikini in 2017, and I placed 9th or so out of like a lot of girls. A proud moment. I've since retired, but that's a different experience, right, when you're on stage and competing. But regardless of what stage it is, the stage still has a structure. So it's a way of thinking of your chart. So typically, let me just put this so it's like natural or how it normally would be. Typically in all of us, right, you can even think of it as a body. So if this is Aries, right, oh my gosh, it's because it's back. Okay, it's reversed. So Aries, right, and this, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, good. This is weird for me because of the way it's being mirrored to me. So typically in all charts, right, you have Aries, and it goes down this way and up. So think of it as a stage. So the stage here, right? And think about the curtain being this way. And so this is front stage and this is backstage, right? So if you are a sign that is like Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and then Libra, Libra splits the chart, right? Balances out. Think of like the scales of Anubis, weighing your heart against the feather, the judgment. And then now we're in backstage area right now. Scorpio is the beginning of the backstage. So this is where all the so anyone who has these placements, I find that you typically have a heightened awareness of like the all, and I have a lot of early placements. So I'm a very Aries, Taurus, Gemini person. So very much like um, the front stage stuff, the performance aspect of. But in order for there to be a front stage, you need a backstage. You need someone to like open and close the curtains. And I remember looking at this uh, in terms of lighting, right? So St. Mary's Academy, where I went to high school, has a beautiful theater, like a legitimate theater with red velvet curtains and like a beautiful freaking theater. I have been so blessed to be able to be on a legitimate stage and perform on that stage, because like I've done it in like fitness, of course, as well. I've done it in like cheerleading and stadiums, but there's nothing like a legit stage with real curtains and a real spotlight and all of that kind of stuff, right? So when I did my finals in drama in grade 12, I did Cats, by the way. The musical Cats with my friend Rachel. See here, X-Force Dazzler. Oh, I love Dazzler. Yes, great choice. You're an Aries, Rosa. Oh yes, Aries in the house. I'm not an Aries, but I'm an Aries rising, and my Venus and Mercury are in Aries. So although I'm a Taurus, I have a lot of fire. I went to Rob Zombie in Winnipeg. Oh, very cool, That's very cool. We were actually watching, my husband was watching The Devil's Rejects earlier. Rob Zombie actually, if you guys have seen Space 1999, you know Catherine Schell, who plays the alien, she actually is in one of like Rob Zombie's movies. It's like a tarot reader or something. It's kind of like a cool throwback to that. March 27, I'm Aries AF. Oh my gosh, Hunter and Nebula. Like, I mean, I find that area of the chart, like there's I vibe a lot with anyone with like late March into April. It's like this, like that springtime energy, that initiation energy. That guy's like, guys, like, let's do this. I have a great idea. Let's go for it. Sometimes comes with it a little bit of action before thinking it through, but you know, blonde Marlou. You like blonde better? Yeah, I was blonde. That was my friend, my girlfriend. Siren is a redhead, daughter of Banshee. Ooh, yes, yes. Banshee, actually I learned a bit about Banshee when me and my girlfriend were doing a little Emma Jean crossover, because I think Banshee and Emma Frost have like a relationship. I'm always interested in the superhero relationships and how those all work. Jenna Marbles says I'm Aries AF. I forgot about Jenna Marbles. Oh my gosh. Libra, I have come. Oh, Wolverosa. Lots of love for the Libras. Libra and Tauruses are ruled by Venus. So, yeah, I'm going to try to do a Dazzler cosplay maybe. Blonde at Start, yes, change. And Firestar from the New Warriors, now teaching at Jean's School. Oh, that's cool. I love that name too, Firestar. Yes. Strawberry Blonde, though, is redhead. I think we've decided to. White Zombie and Megadeth back in the Wild Show. Oh my gosh, live. There is nothing but live concerts. There's just nothing like it. To have it live and be in that moment in time space. So think of it, as the stage. And when you're on, for you, you're going to have planets. And each of your planets for your chart are going to represent aspects of you. And so you're going to find some of your planets are playing more in the front stage, and some of your planets are playing in the back stage. So a way of looking at your own chart. No, I didn't. Hunter Nebula. Taylor Swift's not my thing. She's not. I live close by though to the Rogers Center, and I always find it funny how the Rogers Center always does baseball games on full moons and new moons. Kind of funny. Hey Pikachu, hello, welcome. Um, I don't know. She's a cute girl, but I grew up, you guys, with like the divas of the 90s. Like Mariah Carey was like my first CD that I bought. Like Whitney Houston, Tina Turner, right? We don't need another hero. That song came out, so Mad Max Thunderdome came out in 1985, the year of my birth. So I don't know what that means. Means something. So, too manufactured and not my genre of music. Yeah, it's all just, you know what? I read a Batgirl comic that literally talked about, I need to reread it because TikTok only saves my recordings for 30 days and I've been really slow with getting to the recordings and the replays, so I think I probably have to reread this, but it's the Summer of Lies storyline, and Batgirl is dealing with these nanobots, but these nanobots basically simulate psychedelic trips, right? And the bad guys are using these nanobots to mind control people and make them do heinous stuff. And they trigger the mind control through really bad pop music that they play. So I'm like, what does this mean in today's world? What nanobots and what pop music is going to be doing this? And maybe that's why people are going nuts. But like, hey, oh nice. I need to watch Supergirl. I actually do. I'm working on my own little live action little video clips with myself and myself. Like for example, Batgirl and Supergirl, because in Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? There's this conversation. Oh, actually, also Batgirl has this scenario where she goes into like her dream. She's like trapped in this dream world. I noticed that in a lot of comic books that's a common like storyline, right? Where you're like, I'm trapped in my mind, or I'm trapped in a dream. I can't get out. So Batgirl realizes, or Barbara, she can meditate and like see the real world. You know, like out when you're dreaming. Well, Inception, I guess you have like a dream within a dream. But like if you dream in your dream, could you dream about this life? You know? Anyways, but in the dream, she's able to like lift up these really heavy objects, and she's like, I guess this is how Supergirl feels like, being lucid in the dream. And I'm like, that's a tell. That's something. It's about being lucid in the dream. So the co-dreaming that we're doing right now, the collective stage that we're on, we all are this entire stage that is bouncing against everyone else's. And how that works in 3D world remains to be seen. But what ends up happening is our shared co-created reality energetically will take on the resonance of I don't want to say mass, but more about like what catches and what is in alignment with the greater opera of the all, right? Because if we think of everything as being in a spiral, even though things seem like chaotic at this stage, it's all in, like, it's all as it should be, things as they always were, right? So a comic I will show you guys what I'm going to be reading later. I'm going to end this live stream because I already went like way over. So it's been fun hanging with you guys. I was a little behind because this was supposed to happen at noon. So typically at noon I do the astro readings, and I'm going to be doing a little oracle reading for you guys. The oracle card reading for you guys, in case you missed it, is healing the divine masculine within us, which is the concept of being that protector, the warrior within, this idea of holding the line, holding your own boundaries, protecting yourself and your loved ones, right? Not being so nice that you just let people ride you. And, you know, being okay with maybe other people not being okay with you finally putting your foot down and being like, you know what? No more stealing energy from me. No. I'm going to save my energy for those who are going to, like, contribute to my own dreams and stuff, right? So the comic I'm going to be reading later is, where did you go? Oh my goodness, too many comic books, my friends. Oh yes. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. And I realized I didn't finish it because I talked about Supergirl Comes and Visits, but there are other stories. It's going to be later on tonight. Yeah, later on tonight. I'm going to aim for it. But if not, for sure, this one is for sure tomorrow. And then if there is more time, we'll get to all the Marvel stuff because I have some backlog with stuff to deal with in terms of that multiverse and going through all that. So, I don't own Ronin from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I should. So many to own. I have like a little list of things to get, you guys. And please do, if you have any comic books that you want for me to source so that I can try to do a cosplay within that comic book, please do send me a DM. I would love to hear from you. It's all about bringing stories to life, these characters to life, because in doing so, we're able to have these stories be a little bit more accessible to each of us, our inner world, our imaginations, and by doing that, we also inform the greater cosmos, and we're all better for it, which I'm all for that too, right? Oh yeah, thanks guys. Have a great night, friends. I need bad. Supposed to be good. So guys, I hope you have a good one. I hope you do some work on yourselves in terms of healing any divine masculine within. So anytime you've enforced your boundaries and you've gotten shame for it, just trust in yourself, right? Trust in your heart, and trust that you will do the right thing, whatever that looks like to you, and follow the truth with a capital T. So it takes courage to be exactly who you are in this game of life. And I wish you good fortune in it. I'll do the Synastry reading of Batgirl and Supergirl probably tomorrow at some point in time in the day. And yeah, all the other stuff, I'm going to hopefully have the schedule of events up on my Golden Sugar Production TV website. And I will have links to all that coming up very soon. So have a great night, guys. Until next time. And remember, the universe is counting on you. But not to worry, I've got your back.